a video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on in, kings and queens, and welcome to the conversation. You are watching me. I'm Steffanie, and this is my video version of my journal. I am multicasting on several platforms, including YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And so, on whatever platform you're joining, I want to say welcome to the conversation. If you are one of the subscribers, thanks for subscribing. And if you are new to the conversation, we want to welcome you. By the time I finish, I'm sure there'll be something that you hear that you will like and want to share and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. So you probably know what the subject is for today, and you've heard a lot about it, but I want to add my commentary to what's going on. The murders last week of 19 elementary school students and 2 teachers inside Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, is tragic on so many levels. And we're going to discuss what that is, what is going on. First, the mass murder is more confirmation that there is no safe place to hide from random gun violence. Not school, not church, not the grocery store, not even your own home are safe places to hide from random gun violence. Local law enforcement in Uvalde still are trying to get their story straight, get their timeline straight on what happened and when. And even the Justice Department is investigating at this point. But thanks to parents and residents who were at the scene, most of the timeline has been revealed through their social media platforms. And the cops are not heroes. Not only did the cops at the scene not protect and serve those children and the teachers who were at the mercy of one lone gunman, their failure to engage that lone gunman who locked himself inside a classroom with those defenseless students and teachers for at least 45 minutes most likely cost them their lives. Now, had the cops at least distracted Salvador Ramos, and here's a picture of Salvador Ramos. Had the cops at least distracted Salvador Ramos by attempting to enter the place where he was holed up, that might have saved some lives, and it might have been enough to keep him from killing more people. But no, they spent crucial moments arguing with parents who begged them to go in and do what they were trained to do, and that's get their children, get their babies. I'm going to show you a video. And so this video is of somebody who was at the scene, and they essentially, it shows the chaos that was going on outside of the school. So let's see where we are. While I get that ready, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe that so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. Now, this is a 6-minute and 42-second video. I'm just going to show you a few minutes, if that much of it. Here it is.
No te bajaron la onda, güey. It's not helping matters. We're taking care of it. Shit, he ain't done yet. She did. It's not good. Y'all should have fucking changed that motherfucker like that. Let him go. Fucking do it to him. Let him go. que me vas a disparar, güey. You're shooting.
Now, that was the melee that was going on inside or outside of the school, Uvalde, Robb Elementary in Uvalde. And I just showed you a portion of it because if you want to see the whole thing, you can go to YouTube and do a search for desperate parents wait outside Robb Elementary School in Uvalde to see the full video. But I just wanted to show you that it's showing that these cops, they're suited and booted, looking like they're ready for battle. But when it came time to perform, they did not. This is the personification of Lizzo's line, why men great till they gotta be great. We expect people, most people expect for police officers to do at least what the patch says on their shoulder, serve and protect. And even some parents, as you saw, were handcuffed as the cops spent more time trying to restrain and detain parents instead of going in and doing what you would expect them to do, and that is confront one lone gunman. Okay, those parents were in agony, begging those cops to go save their kids, or at least let me through the line and let me do it. Some of the parents wanted, but to no avail. They got detained and handcuffed. Now, at least one mother managed to get through into the school to save her children. And apparently her kids had a cell phone or had access to a cell phone. A lot of people were calling 911. And after they realized nobody's coming in and mama is standing outside, mama went in and got her babies. Okay, so nobody can blame her for that. And I understand that the word on the street is some of those cops went in and got their babies too, but they officially did not make entry until they did not make entry at that time until at least 45 minutes into this situation, while people stood around and waited. Now, before anybody emails me and tells me that I don't understand what it's like to be in battle, don't email me and tell me that BS, okay? These cops are paid and trained for events such as this, an active shooter. And it just so happened, I learned that a few months before this, let's say 8 weeks before this shooting, the Uvalde police chief, his name is Pedro Arredondo, and let me try to pull up his picture for you so you can see who it is that I'm referring to. This is Pedro Arredondo. He is the police chief of the Uvalde Police Department. And just 2 weeks before the shooting, it said that Arredondo was in training, was in active shooter training, okay? And members of the police force, about 8 weeks before that, spent at least a day in training at the local high school, running through scenarios on how to stop an active shooter. So although I'm not sure how that was paid for, I know that typically how it works is it's paid for through taxpayer money. And so you mean to tell me that these cops are taking, and the police department is taking money from taxpayers, which include these parents begging you to go inside and save their kids, to do what you've been trained to do just 8 weeks ago, and you did not do that? This is tragic on so many levels. This is another reason why I support defund the police. Yeah, I'm bringing it back around. to defund the police. These law enforcement agencies around the country, they got residents paying millions of dollars, me and you and everybody else. It's a part of the taxes. They take it out of our taxes. Got us paying millions of dollars for equipment, for training, salaries for people who in the heat of the moment can't even engage one lone gunman. So, but when it comes to Black people in America, they'll bully and kill us. They'll bully and kill unarmed Black people on the side of the road, okay? And then they'll claim they fear for their lives, okay? But when armed white people storm the Capitol, then what they shoulda, woulda, coulda done to stop it, they didn't. Now, of course, there were one or two Capitol Police or legislative police that ended up shooting or defending themselves by shooting. We know at least one or two people died in the process. But here's the thing. When you had a chance to stop armed white people, you didn't shoot. Okay, and then you got it in Congress on a congressional hearing and cried about how you fear for your life. But in the heat of the moment, you didn't do nothing. So it's more about, that's why I say Uvalde Police Department is not an exception to what law enforcement is about. They are an example of what law enforcement is about. But when it comes to Black people in America, you will bust in a Black person's house in a minute with a no-knock search warrant and shoot up the place, only to find out you at the wrong house and or the person you're looking for is not there, but you done shot and killed people, got people standing around in their underwear in their own home, and this is the result of it. But you want for people to hand over millions of dollars to train you so you can be ready for an active shooter. And this is what you do. You stand outside and fight parents instead of fighting the one lone gunman who killed 21 people. So here's also what I want to bring up. Qualified immunity. A lot of these officers are acting, or they act like they do against unarmed people. They act like they do with a no-knock search warrant because they're hiding behind qualified immunity. And this is a reason why I think qualified immunity should be removed from every state in the United States. And so if this lack of engagement by the Uvalde Police Department in the heat of the moment with training that they just had doesn't convince you that cops are getting too much money and not acting like they should, and they're doing nothing but standing around like the average citizen might, then you just need to turn this off and don't look at it, because you and I totally don't see eye to eye. But if you are still here and you do agree, please like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. So what we're talking about is Uvalde Police Department. They are the example of what's wrong with law enforcement. They are not the exception. Okay. Some people contend that cops were just following orders on that day from the police chief, Pedro Arredondo, to wait for backup and following standard operating procedures by not walking into harm's way because they didn't have the right equipment. But if that's the case, then stop taking people's money and getting training on what to do in case an active shooter comes to town, okay? Because if you just gonna fall back on standard operating procedure, then what's the point then of getting trained? There's no point. What's the point in taking people's millions of dollars in taxpayer funds? There's no point. So that's my message. Don't pretend like you're going to save the day, and in the end, you fall back on, well, standard operating procedure is we just hold off. Well, then hold off then and don't take our money. That's what you need to hold off on. Tear those protect and serve badges off your wrist because you've been exposed. The Uvalde Police Department, as well as others across the country, have been exposed, and we cannot unsee it. We see y'all. We see y'all. Okay, so according to the timeline from people who were actually there and who have no reason to lie, the area SWAT team was the group that actually went into the school to engage the shooter, only to determine that, oh, the door is locked. And now they waited another 30-45 minutes, I'm told, at least 30 minutes, for someone, an employee at the school, to show up with the key to get through the door. So you mean to tell me a SWAT team that has all the training that a SWAT team has, that has all the equipment, hand-me-down military equipment that a SWAT team has, does not have what it takes to break down a door in a school that's locked to get to a shooter that is barricaded himself in there with some innocent children? You mean to tell me that? It sounds like this was what they call a shit show, okay? And it just shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. And especially if it turns out to be true that some of the law enforcement officers who were on the scene, they took it upon themselves to go find their children and their relatives' children and get them out safely. But officially, they waited until the door was unlocked. They waited until they had to go ahead. They waited for whatever they was waiting for. When it's your baby on the line, when it's my baby on the line, they got time to wait. But when it's their kids on the line, they doing whatever they can. That means you and I need to get locked and loaded and do what we need to do for our families. That's what that means. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, subscribe. So why is it? Here's something else that that I want to ask you, and I'm not really going to get into right now because I got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about. Is why is it that when the mass murderer is a white person, they seem to take that person alive, and they get to go to jail, and they get to, have the benefit of a trial and all of that. But when it's not a white person, they get killed on the scene. Why is that? Have you ever asked yourself that? So while you're thinking about all these other things, ask yourself that. In the meantime, although there are millions of dollars spent on local jurisdictions to train law enforcement, at the end of the day, you and I cannot depend on a cop to save us, to save our loved ones. So what does that mean? Well, that leads me to the Second Amendment. See, the right to bear arms. That's where I'm going with this as well. I'm bringing it all back around. See, the murderer of 10 black people a few weeks ago by a self-proclaimed white supremacist terrorist that happened in Buffalo, New York. New York, a state that has the most, if not one of the most strictest gun legislations in the country. You can't even own a gun in the city of New York City. I'm not sure about in the surrounding areas like a Buffalo, New York, but because the state legislature is over the whole state, I would assume that in the state of New York, it's illegal to own a firearm, or at least to carry one outside of your house. Let's say that. So New York is one of the states with the strictest gun laws in the country. This mass murder in Uvalde, Texas, is in Texas, where Texas has one of the most lax gun regulations in the country. It's open carry. It's open. You don't even have to have a license to carry anymore in Texas. So that proves that having the most strict gun laws, all the way to having next to no gun laws in the United States, it's not the answer. Gun laws are not the answer. No matter where they are, criminals with plans for mass murder, they don't care about the law. They care about soft targets. They're looking for soft targets. That means people who are less likely to be able to defend themselves. That's why shooters end up going to schools because they know it's children in there, and those kids don't know how to shoot. They know it's nurses and teachers in there, which more than likely they don't know how to shoot. They go to church where you're focused on reading the Bible and looking at the pastor and singing hymn song. You're not focused on let me watch my back in church. In the grocery store, you looking at your grocery list. You're like, well, how much is this? Well, how many calories is in this? You're not really focused on somebody walking up on you and shooting you while you're shopping. You're a soft target at that point. And that's what mass murderers focus on. How can I find the most victims soft targets? So make it your business to not be a soft target. That's what you need to do, like this woman did in Charleston, West Virginia. It happened a few days ago after the Uvalde shooting. Look it up if you want to know more about it, but I'm going to explain it to you. Essentially, this woman, it was a party that was part graduation party, part birthday party. They were having a party. It was a bunch of young people, and it was in a neighborhood, I'm told, or at least that's how I understand the article to read. And somebody kept driving up and down the street reckless, and when they told the person, hey dude, you need to stop driving up and down like, being reckless. We got kids and we try to have a party. This guy gets upset, drives off, comes back with a gun, okay, and starts shooting at people at the party, okay. So there was a woman at the party who now we find out had a license to carry and knew how to use it. She didn't just carry the license, okay. She pulled out, drew up on his ass, and shot him and killed him, okay. They didn't worry about calling no cops. They didn't worry about running for cover. I'm sure some people ran for cover, but at least one person took it upon herself to save the day, and that is my type of hero. She is my hero. So she probably had little to no training, and most definitely she had less training than a police officer would have in that situation. Most definitely she had less training than all the people you saw them suited and booted in Uvalde with rifles and shotguns and all the way down to their damn ankles. You mean this long ass gun and all you're gonna do is walk around with it? Come on now. So the woman in Charleston, West Virginia, that's my kind of person who takes it upon herself if she has to do so. Nobody wants to, take a life except for these people like mass murderers, but just everyday people who are just trying to live their lives and celebrate when they can celebrate and provide for their families. Those people, you and I, that's who we are. We need to get trained. We need to make it our business to be hard targets. So if anybody wants to make us a target, we're going to be hard. We are not going to be soft, okay? Get trained, get ready, and stay ready, because it could go down at church. It could go down at work. It could go down at the grocery store. It might go down at the club. And oh yeah, if you're Black in America, it might go down at your house. So you got to always be ready. To find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.